Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to this edition of SOLIDWORKS Manufacturing Live. Our topic today is business transformation with manufacturing ERP and MES. My name is Dick Longoria, and I am a Dassault Systems Delmia Works Partner Manager. I work specifically with our channel partners for bringing Delmia Works ERP and MES to the market space. And joining us today is Imtiaz Lodhi, president of Arisoft. And we're going to be discussing how customers can successfully transition from, the ERP systems that they're using today, which could be homegrown or a variety of systems, a number of applications that might be disconnected, and how you can make that transition to an integrated manufacturing ERP. What we really want to convey today, or help everyone understand more about, is how best to prepare for these types of transitions. What are some of the informations you need to know about yourself, and what should you gather? What should you ask your vendors? And this will better prepare you to make these types of transitions more effectively. So, welcome everybody, and let's get started. Imtiaz, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Dick.
Hey, you
Thanks
know
for
what?
inviting me.
Why don't we take a quick moment and give the audience a brief introduction about yourself, what you've been up to, and what your area of expertise is with Arisoft.
Thank you, Dick. My name is Imtiaz Lodhi. I'm the president and CEO of the Arisoft. We are a Dassault value-add reseller in North America. My personal side of it is that I have been with ERP and and manufacturing ERP systems for last maybe more than 20 years, starting my career as an ERP analyst and then now moving into implementing side of it, vendor side of it. Um, started started Arisoft back in 2005. Looking at almost like completing 16, 17 years with the Arisoft journey. So far so good. It's been a great journey, learning a lot, and here we are.
Well, fantastic. Thank you, MTS, for joining us on this segment. I'm really looking forward to our conversation to provide people the information that we kind of talked about. And to kind of kick this session off, I would like to take a look at that whole industry 4.0 area, talk about it for just a moment, and also review some survey results. But when we think about the industrial revolution, the first, second, third, we've all been there. The fourth industrial revolution is all about connectivity and gathering data in real time from the manufacturing floor. So when we talk about Industry 4.0, we're really talking about a digital transformation, moving from paper to no paper, right, to digital applications, digital information. And since everything can be connected in real time, I mean, look, even we can be connected in real time. I mean, you can put a watch on your wrist and you could be notified in real time, of maybe, you need to take your medication. Maybe you need an insulin shot. Maybe you're tracking your blood pressure. I mean, all this information is available. So there's no reason why manufacturers shouldn't also expect to grab that type of real-time information from a machine or from entire, then convert that information into usable information to drive decision making. And so that when we talk about Industry 4.0 and the fourth industrial revolution, this is what really is at the core of this whole topic. So let's at some survey results that will help us kind of point the discussion in the right direction. This Industry Week survey that was done not too long ago that I think will shed some light, this topic. So let's take a look at some of these results. First of all, who responded to this survey. There were of all these companies that responded. It's important to note that 74% of the companies that responded were $100 million in revenue or less, with nearly 50% in the $10 million revenue range or lower. So I think the people who responded to this is a great cross section for this conversation. Now, regarding these companies and their own digital transformation journeys, we identify that the vast majority of them, 87%, are either in an early or mid stage of digital transformation. And so this is kind of the basis of this information. And so, what are people looking at? What, in this survey, we asked them, what are the top 10 business drivers or metrics that you use to evaluate performance? And those are actually listed in order of importance, from gathering production metrics, cycle times, tracking quality, defects, and rework, on-time delivery yields. These are all things we're all familiar with. And what you're seeing in this graphic is those gray bars going horizontally across. For companies that are in their early stages of digital transformation, this is the percentage of companies that are seeing improvements areas, even in the early stages of transforming their businesses. And the dark bars are showing companies that are in that mid to advanced stage of digital transformation. So what we're seeing from this graphic, from the people who responded, is that this digital transformation journey they're going through is having a significant impact on their businesses. And why is this important, right? Well, it's really important because when you look at the challenges that are facing the manufacturing industry today, there's a lot of pressures, right? I mean, what are our customers demanding? They demand new products. They want greater innovation. They want really cool products. They want higher quality. They want it right now, and they want it at lower prices. And at the same time, manufacturers are dealing with some significant constraints, and not all of these are can we manage, right? I mean, new design takes time and talent. Innovative design takes even longer to develop. Machines and floor space are expensive, and this is the way that we used to actually solve capacity problems, right? It's kind of like, we'll add another wing to the plant, we'll throw in some more machines, we'll hire a bunch of people, and we'll be producing 50% more. Well, those aren't necessarily the ways that we can actually increase capacity. That's at least not necessarily our first choice. And why is that? Well, number one, it's expensive. Number two, you know gathering, all this is takes time and effort. And also hiring people is very, very, very difficult. There's a labor constraint. And so MTS, this kind of sets the stage, for our conversation today. And as we look at the top 10 business metrics, from your experience, your broad experience out there, what are the primary objectives of companies? What are they looking to achieve when they come to you? What do they want to solve?
Well, usually there are twofold. Okay, one is more like trying to solve a process improvement side of the business. The other one is maybe they are at a different stage of their digital transformation journey, meaning automation, data capture, trying to eliminate the manual steps that they're currently doing. So it's a combination of several objectives that they try to achieve by when they reach out to us.
Okay. Okay, very good. And there are a lot of companies, when they start this journey, they might be using QuickBooks and Excel or other applications to manage their business. Maybe, in their front office, customer quoting, they also have to develop sales and work orders. All this business related functions and activities that usually take place in the front office. It's very common, to use different types of
Yep.
systems. And those systems work well up to a point. So what are the clues that manufacturers might run into or should be aware of that indicate that maybe it's time to look at a change? I mean, what are the pain points?
Well, it differs from like customer to customer, industry to industry, but generally they would have a situation where they have outgrown their system. They started with something very small like QuickBooks, moving on to building their homegrown system. In certain cases, the unexpected growth or a projected growth that they're trying to be ready for, and these are some of the things that that generally decide, and then rest of them are more towards operational, meaning they have multiple systems, disparate systems not talking to each other. Like you have QuickBooks, you have Excel file, and then maybe some of the other applications that are working in different silos. So these are some of the sort of like the business drivers that look the companies look for before they start looking at the the ERP or manufacturing ERP systems.
So it could be something as simple as, what we're gathering information from the floor, and maybe that information needs to be shared with the front office for scheduling or something like that, or finance. But finance isn't speaking to those other systems, correct? And I think while you're kind of reconnecting there, MTS, a lot of times we find in companies that are looking to transform their businesses or to solve problems, there might also be client driven initiatives. Maybe these customers are saying, you know what, um, you know the customer of the customer, your customer is coming to you and saying, hey, what systems do you have in place? We have various regulations or compliancy requirements that we need to make sure that our vendors and our suppliers can meet. So there are all sorts of reasons on why customers might have these requirements.
Right, absolutely. Well, sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulty in terms of bandwidth here. Not sure what exactly happened. But to answer your question, I mean, there are many areas in which where we looking at helping customers in the areas where. Uh, can you repeat, Dick? Can you repeat the last part of your question, please?
We were talking about, what are some of the clues or symptoms of that somebody needs to look at new solutions, and we were talking about client-driven initiatives, that might exist.
Sure, sure. Yeah, thank you. Well, some of it we discussed earlier, like the business projected growth, but some of the other areas, including their own customer-driven initiatives, like for example, the advanced shipping notification (EDI), or if they are working with a tier one supplier, you'll be looking at ILVS system where the automotive the tier one manufacturers require suppliers to be ILVS enabled and being able to deliver products within, let's say, 4 to 6 hours of lead time on the production floor.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is there could be both internal or external
Correct.
driven events that have an impact. Um, you know, which kind of brings up a topic. When you think about ERP systems and organizations, when they put something in, what do you think what would you say is the average lifespan of an ERP? How long do these things last? I mean, should I be able to buy one and live with it for quite some time, or what do you think?
Well, again, there are multiple factors. Obviously, if the technological advancement is one, sometimes customers have that we have seen in the past that they have been using QuickBooks and a combination of homegrown systems for, let's say, 10, 15 years now, but the technology that existed 20 years ago is no longer, viable in especially in today's security environment, especially internet security and the insurance impact of that. So I mean, I'll give you an example for one of our customers who's currently using ASP Classic application. So we're helping them with upgrading that application that was designed 20 years ago and bringing into the most recent technology stack. So these are some of the reasons.
You speak about obsolete technology. Isn't there a liability issue as well with some of these systems? And is there an insurance issue that could potentially be at play with these types of systems? Does that play a role?
Yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, it's a good question. And nowadays, if you look at your insurance renewal, the one forms that we also get myself as well as part of our insurance coverages is that they ask very detailed question in terms of technology stack. So absolutely, the obsolete technology is a main factor in insurance premium considerations.
Okay, very good. So based on your experience, how do you see companies um, going from where they are today to, let's say, an integrated solution? What does that journey look like?
Well, I mean, it's different from different companies. I mean, if you're looking for a mature, a larger organization, they have a lot of processes already in place, and they have the strength, the manpower needed to execute those projects. But for a small to medium-sized organization, the availability of resources to focus on, first of all, their current full day, they have a full-time day job, and then plus adding another burden of implementing a new system and introducing a new system, new training and everything, it can be quite a daunting task for smaller customers.
I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, just from the aspect of if leadership is driving a change, and they know that what the objectives are. We also have these organizations that have people that have been working for the company for many
Yep.
years. They're very comfortable with the systems they've been using. So, what does it look like for the the team? I mean, how important is the buy-in of the organization as a whole to the success of these types of projects?
Well, it's extremely critical. I mean, if we're not getting the buy-in from the operational line managers and the staff, it becomes extremely difficult to implement any project. So, and then also, I mean, it's kind of like multi-stage process. There's initiative that the management is taking that they want to change the status quo from where we are today versus they want where the management wants to take this company into the next 3 to 5 years horizon. They do consider all these facts, but as far as process is concerned, from where they are today and then where we would like to be, it's a multi-stage process. It takes in
Okay.
different phases. We go for the, easiest way would be to go for like, okay, in a way, I mean, what is my minimum viable solution that I can implement that at least take our team away from current everything manual to some sort of a digitized systems.
Okay, very good. And when we think about the ROI, return on investment of an updated integrated solution, over a disconnected system, I mean the value of that sounds obvious, but it really isn't, is it? I mean, there are probably both tangible and intangible benefits. With respect to experience of your customers, can you talk a little bit about the tangible and non-tangible benefits of this type of transformation?
Sure. Well, in terms of tangible, that's more dollar oriented. We're looking at, and then as well as the efficiencies that we take out of these systems. Now, the typically what customers like to see, that that if I spend X number of hours in doing, let's say, month end close, compared to post going live on some of these manufacturing ERP systems, then this is one of the example where we they can measure that, in terms of labor hours that they were spending, and eliminating the manual processes, hence eliminating potential oversights, data entry issues. And in terms of non tangible, that's overall improvement in your interdepartmental synergies, because they're all working within the same data set. Technically speaking, it's a single version of truth.
Okay, very good. And when you kind of think about the companies that you dealt with, to answer one of the questions that's coming in, what tends to be one of the top reasons that companies finally buy into, an ERP or MES solution? Is there anything that finally gets those guys who are hesitating to finally make the jump?
That's that's $1 million question. I think the some of these business drivers, it comes to certain level of maturity within the organization, that that when it start, there's two ways. Okay, one is inefficiencies, and the other part is dollar impact. So if they start receiving late delivery charges, for example, it would be one example, or not being able to provide advance shipping notification on time. Some of these things that basically, I mean, I know one customer that we used to work with. They used to supply, and if their trucks are not on the dock at certain time, they used to get penalized for that.
So that actually that exists in industry where people will pay penalties for not meeting a deadline.
Correct. Correct.
I remember I recall you were telling me about one of your customers in the past. A company that actually was using ERP. They had it in place, but they weren't using it to their full capability. And that your team had worked with them, and you found that their quality management was all paper based.
Correct. Correct.
And what did your team do there to help them understand how to use what they had already existing to make it more effective?
Right. Well, I mean, it's a very typical scenario, right? Where the companies, we call it fatigue, implementation fatigue. When customers go through cycle of like big change from everything manual to the some sort of like systems that where everything is digitized. Along this way, like I said, it's a multi-stage process. So what we do find, and from time to time, where we are meeting a customer that they have already purchased these systems but not implemented it. So as part of our discovery, as part of our engagement with the customer, where we go through this process with them, in order to unearth some of these opportunities where we can help them.
And so you kind of mentioned a discovery process. When companies start going down this path, let's talk a little bit about that process. Um, there is a discovery phase where you really need to understand what's going on in that organization to identify, number one, do we
Yeah,
even have a solution that fits, right?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, and it's not a one size fits all, correct?
Exactly, exactly. Well,
So
go ahead, sir.
can you talk just a little bit about, what is, about the importance of that discovery process, what you're trying to achieve, and what customers need to be able to share in order to make the most out of that effort.
Well, you know, it's again, we every customer has is its own unique set of challenges and opportunities that are presented. In terms of engaging them with the right solution, there's no like one size fits for everybody. Every customer has its own journey and its own time frame in which they basically go from where they are today into the fully implemented ERP systems.
Okay. And going back to some of the survey results that we were looking at earlier,
Mhm.
um, you know, we were that those survey results actually focus more on the manufacturer side of the business, but there's also, all sorts of tools that are used by sales, accounting, procurement, et cetera. And with all the customers that you and your team at Arisoft have worked with, what are some of the key driving factors that your customers have been searching for on, let's say, on the front office side of the business?
Well, I think the front office starts with the CRM, the customers facing staff. They are looking for ability to effectively communicate with their customers, management of their lead management side of the business, interaction with the customer, document management, meaning all their interaction with the customers are done through effective CRM management. So
and you had mentioned also in a previous conversation that, a lot of companies when they look at an ERP, they're also trying to get a handle on, raw material pricing and the change that is seems to be constantly happening. Can you talk about, the importance of having a handle on that type of information and reacting?
well, I think, especially in our current post-COVID era, we're looking at customers, especially the front office staff, the management, you know, the, their turnaround time or expected turnaround time for their costing data, for their supply chain information, the purchasing side of the business, competitive pricing. This is all these data points that previously were not as critical for the pre-COVID scenarios that have become extremely important nowadays, and they expect, especially the front office staff, expect uh, these data inputs available at a lot more frequently vis-a-vis before.
It kind of reminds me. I remember speaking to, a couple of our customers out there, and they were talking about, and this would have been more of, the 2021, 22 timeframe, and hopefully it's settled down a little bit, but they
Mhm.
were experiencing price changes on raw materials on a monthly basis. I
Right.
mean, and the impact that that has on their costs and how they quote, that just can't be underestimated, can it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well,
Which kind of go ahead.
no, no, go ahead, Dick.
Which kind of leads into, that whole supply chain issue. Obviously, that has been a big topic over the last several years. Um, with respect to manufacturing ERP and integrated solutions, how important is it to be able to have some sort of method of managing your vendors or having a view into their performance? Is that a key aspect for your customers?
Absolutely. I mean, the most of our customers would like, okay, some of them are at, like I said earlier, um, every customer is a different stage of their journey, but management of vendor scorecard, the options, the lead times, especially on the um, raw material size side, it's extremely important. So the vendor scorecard is critical for a lot of customers, in terms of, um, like I mentioned, the lead times and stuff like that. Yep. Go ahead.
It's kind of interesting. One of the values of having an ERP that speaks to its MES or can gather information from the MES, that real-time data, is that when a customer calls, and says, "Hey, can you deliver 10,000 widgets in 90 days?" How do you know if you can deliver, right? And I mean, you've got to know so much, right? You've got to know, what do you have on the shelf that you can ship? You have to know what you need to manufacture. You need to know if I have the raw materials in stock to manufacture that. Can I fit it in the schedule? And and if I can fit it in the schedule, what's my manufacturing capacity, right? There's so many factors that
Yep.
go into to helping a salesperson be able to tell his customer whether they can or cannot deliver on time. And
Absolutely.
and when you think about all that, you know, we also that's where having that scorecard with those vendors comes into play, right? I mean, if do we have a vendor that is, you know, do they deliver on time? Are they providing complete shipments? Or partial shipments? I mean, there's so much there that has an impact on the overall business, isn't there?
Absolutely. The quality added to the receiving side of the business. I'm going to touch base on your MES part. Like you mentioned, that's the area that one of our customer who previously were using the ERP system, fully implemented ERP systems right from your demand management, processing of your order to cash, procure to pay, financials, and everything, fully integrated system. The but but there was no MES, there was no real time signal capture of the machine data. So the production reporting was done manually at the shift level, at the end of the shift. Now, this customer, which is running about 200 machines out of just outside Toronto, went from like switching it from one day in from an ERP which was working absolutely fine from end to end, then taking it to the next level of data capture, machine production reporting data, capturing from the machine. And I still do remember an email that I received from their CFO that just such a big change in like their mood, their overall happiness with the system. So it was a great story about that. That how impactful these small changes are.
That's interesting. So how often does that happen where a company has an ERP and that's maybe that's working great, right? But they have no visibility to the manufacturing floor. And
Right.
so and you can go in there with the solutions and say, oh, right, here's the MES side of it, and we'll connect it to your ERP and marry them up. Is that fairly common?
It is very common, especially ERP is a big commitment. Making changes which they have been using for 10, 15 years, in some cases, very odd, but generally it is about 6 to 7 years when people are start looking at in terms of or reevaluate their ERP systems. But in certain cases, they are happy the way things are with some of the areas, especially on the production floor, where they find huge gaps that their existing systems are not able to meet their current needs of not just only from production reporting side of the business real time, but also handling exceptions, situation on the floor. Like you can create as best plan as you can, but when the production plan or a monthly plan hits the production floor, there are always exceptions where you need to take down one of the, work on priorities, different customers and situations. So what in those situations, what we do is, we kind of like provide a solution that with a minimum effort, where we can kind of like bridge those gaps by introducing some of these systems that takes care of the production side of the business, nicely integrated with their existing ERP systems.
Okay. Okay. And so let's kind of talk about that a little bit. I remember the statistics that I read back a few years ago that 80% of customers will do a lot of self-education online and investigate all sorts of solutions before they ever speak to a vendor. They'll do 80% of that work on their own. And so for companies, let's say, that are beginning the process of looking at other solutions or are in that process today, what information should they gather about themselves? What do they need to know about themselves in order to get the most out of whatever technology choices they make?
Sure, absolutely. Well, it starts with, the business drivers. Okay, what are the reasons why they need to be looking at these systems? And then they definitely need a complete assessment of their current processes, which is what they have today. Vis-a-vis, they would like to have it migrated to the ERP systems. So whether we have, there are many options available in the market today, especially for customers. Having the right software for their business is something that is important.
Okay. And when you consider all the moving parts, that impact a manufacturing floor, from material planning, procurement, scheduling, manufacturing capacity, right?
Yeah.
I recall, speaking to companies, where all of their scheduling was done by one person, right? That one person's the keeper of the knowledge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They have the best view, the pulse of everything, but that's also risky, right? How can a company minimize the risk of one person holding all that tribal knowledge?
This this is this is like time and again that we run into this issue, where they have long-term employees that they know. It's kind of like gut feeling. They know their environment, they know the numbers, but that's based on their number of years of experience. Having that person replaced, or having some sort of like data-driven decisioning, is something that they can take advantage of by implementing these systems.
It kind of reminds me of a company I remember back in the day, a company that was making some very complex mechanical devices, and they were really big devices. Um, and there was the superstar guy who'd been there forever, right? And he had to do that. One person was responsible for all the quoting,
Yep.
and the business owner was very frustrated because he was actually in his organization, he didn't have control over or have any impact ability to influence how how many quotes this person could actually manage, right? He could only do so much, and it really was a limitation on his organization, and he really needed to find a way to extract that tribal knowledge, and open up opportunities for the business to grow. So it is a real issue. It can be a real concern for organizations going through all types of growth and expansion.
Absolutely. Well, I'm pretty sure half of the audience of this live stream probably thinking of a name in their own companies about that guy. They probably have a visual right now.
Everybody has one of those guys,
Everybody has
right?
one John or Mike or Michael, um, that's taking care of this, and absolutely, it's kind of like, I wouldn't call it de-risking it, but complementing the employee or employees, their ability, instead of like taking some of that information and then make it more process oriented rather than depending on that individual. As you know, that we have a huge challenge with the labor market these days. Ability to attract and retain the talent has become quite a challenge these days for the HR teams.
No, yeah, no question. And let's face it, manufacturing companies looking to hire people. I mean, it's a tough labor market no matter what. But
Yep.
but there's so many preconceived ideas about what manufacturing is. And the truth is, there's incredible technologies in manufacturing, right? And it's really helpful to help the up and coming workforce understand that. I mean, it's a technology loaded industry.
Right, right.
It's not our fathers or grandfathers manufacturing environment anymore, is it?
Right. I mean, within my own experience since 1993, being on the production floor of Toyota, um, implementing these systems, which I have done. I mean, that from there to where we are today, even on the production floor, the number of users or the operators have gone down drastically. And then they are even looking at even creating, in some cases, lights out environment. So the automation is big. Pretty much every customer that we visit today, when we walk the floor, there's something going on in the automation side of the board. You will find, someone, couple of robotics projects sitting there. Well, we have helped about a few customers in the past year or so, where we kind of like help them, not only it's essentially deliver a multi-vendor project. So there is a robotic arm company, there's an ERP systems, and then there are conveyor belt manufacturer who are specialized, very purpose-built solution providers combining all these different vendors and then coming up with the automated solution is something that we are quite proud of.
Speaking of other systems within the manufacturing environment, when you think about gathering information from the manufacturing floor, there's all sorts of type of equipment out there. There's machines that are, older, non-computerized. There's machines that are CNC or have controllers on them. Maybe they're connected to a PLC,
Yeah.
whether it's a machine or a robot system. Y- Um, you know, how has Arisoft dealt with those types of environments? Do you guys work on connecting those machines? What do our customers, what do our people listening need to be aware of about that whole process?
A good question. Well, we do have the ability to work with not only the current PLC based machines and then being able to harvest PLC data, but also to the machines that are relatively a little bit older machines, but with the IoT devices, we are able to achieve certain objectives. The signal.
Okay, so we could connect to anything, whether it's a newer machine, older machine. We can put a piece of hardware on it, start extracting the data, and put it to work.
Correct. Just need an access to the PCB.
Absolutely, right? And there's so many areas of a manufacturing company. We talk a little bit about the front office and all the types of events and things that go on in that side of the business, and also the manufacturing floor. And one of the things we haven't talked too much about, and I kind of wanted to ask you about, was about quality. About quality metrics. I mean, everybody counts good parts, bad parts, and people are all, everybody puts in some sort of quality testing to ensure that the parts that are being created meet the expectations of their customers. Um, you know, but with respect to ERP, what should manufacturers consider when evaluating a quality system, for an ERPC? How does that play into it?
Well, the quality starts right from when you receive the products, right from purchasing side, purchase receipts. So quality touches pretty much every aspect of of any manufacturing organization. It is impacting right here, right, raw material receipt side of it, through and through within the production cycle, the reject reason codes, the Pareto chart, Pareto chart. So when we look at the quality, and especially quality is very tightly integrated with all the other aspects of your ERP systems. It's attached to your asset side of it from the preventive maintenance side. It is attached to your receiving side, your during the manufacturing process side. We use called SPC, where you're doing the statistical process, uh, those quality aspect for sample testing, and then going out the products, which is the final FG testing, finished good testing.
This whole digital transformation is all about continuous improvement, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. And then, I'm gonna give you an example of, because I work with Toyota, and we have a big focus on Kaizen. Kaizen is a Toyota philosophy on continuous improvement, and every assembly line operator, assembly line leads, they're required to even participate in Kaizen competition. So, absolutely.
You know, and Taz, you had mentioned you kind of been at this for a long time. Is there anything that we haven't brought up yet that that viewers should understand about this evaluation process of ERP systems out there? Any tips that you can give them on what they should look for within themselves and in order to solve?
Well, most of the clients that we have worked with, they generally, it's a continuous process like Kaizen. We are looking for improvement areas, how we can sort of like approach first understanding the problem, understanding where we are and where we plan to go. And if we have that scoped, then we look at what options are available, what can we do, who we can talk to. And some of these areas, like some customers, um, um, I mean, there's a lot of consulting companies are available. We do this on a regular basis of these discoveries. So there's multiple avenues.
And speaking of that, are you aware or have you had any customers take advantage of any government grants or programs that might be available for manufacturers that's related to, digital transformation in their companies or ongoing training? Do those types of programs exist?
Well, each country has its own, and not just countries, the state, and then maybe potentially the regions. But someone's going to have to. There are some specialized consulting companies out there that can find that for you. For But let's say I mean, right now I'm sitting in Toronto. So Canadian side of it is that we have a digital adoption program from the government that has a component of grant and a long-term loan type of thing.
hmm I think it's worth mentioning, this whole industry 4.0 is a global competition, if you will. Each country actually might have a different name for it.
Exactly.
But it's a global initiative, right?
Yep.
And all the manufacturers that are out there, their competition is no longer just down the street and local of people that they know. I mean, there's active organizations globally that manufacturing companies are getting together and trying to understand how do we compete in other parts of the world. So, I mean, the global competition is real,
Right.
and one of the growing pressures on the organizations out there.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, Taz, I think we're getting close to the end of our session. Is there any other message that you would have for companies that are going down this path, that you might be able to share with them that might help them in their journey?
Well, stay focused in terms of your need. I think the need. I mean, most clients know what they need. It's just that for companies like us, we just help them, sort of like hand holding them in towards the finish line. This is something, and not just like Arisoft, but companies like Arisoft and then the organizations like us.
And you know what? And you brought that up, and I think before we end, you're absolutely right. Companies do know what they need, and there isn't necessarily a one size fits all. So, what percent, or I don't know if that's a fair question, what percent, but are when you talk to customers, how many of them need something special that's not in the box that you need to provide specifically for them? Is that a common occurrence as well?
Well, it is common, but we generally go by 80-20 rule, where your 80 to 90% of your requirements are met through out of the box solution. And then there are certain specialized need. Okay. There is always something, what I call it, the high business impact areas where we need to integrate, and some of them requiring just compliance. There's no go escape from it. We have to be compliant, but generally, like those areas are more. I would say between 5 and 10% of the customization. Other than that, I think we the solutions that we have are available in the market that takes care of most of it, most of the other part.
And these solutions can be deployed in a variety of fashions, right? I mean, it's whether a customer, if they're in a highly regulated industry, and they want a on premise type of solution versus a cloud-based solution. I mean, we have a variety of ways to deploy these solutions.
Absolutely, absolutely, we do.
Okay, very good. Well, Taz, I want to thank you for your time today. I know we covered. I know this is a big topic. There's
We can go on
there
for another 2 hours.
We could go on and on and on, and we know that we're just scratching the surface, and that for everyone listening, you may have some questions, more about ERP, and we're always here to answer questions, and you certainly can reach out to Taz as well. And so, with that in mind, Taz, I want to thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks
And
for inviting me.
you're welcome. And until next time, we look forward to our next episode of SolidWorks Manufacturing Live in the not too distant future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.